Hi everyone, it's Stephanie.
This is Emily.
And today we're going to do another book review on Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. So I got this as my book of the month a few months ago now because I wanted something different. It's a thriller / mystery. So yeah, let's get into it.
So Behind Her Eyes, the premise of the story is that it follows this 30-something single mother in London, I believe somewhere in the outskirts of London, and she works in London in a psychiatric's office. And she happens to be relatively lonely as a person, and she goes to this bar and meets this mysterious man, only to find out that he is married. So it kind of goes on that sort of typical
And
premise.
he's her boss.
And then she finds out the next day that he's actually her boss. And so it's a book about multiple perspectives. One from Louise as the main character, Adele, who is the psychiatric's wife, and David, who is
the guy in between.
Yes, so he's basically the adulterer and husband at the same time. So the story is very much interwoven between what happens among the three of them and how things sort of escalate. And it has the book itself is kind of, as you said, a thriller, but there is some sort of fantastical twist near the end.
Like a mystical
thing.
There's
There's some weird, I would definitely say this book kind of defies categorization because of that, because I think at the beginning it sounded like a typical realistic thriller, then it goes kind of a little weird, and then
so it was definitely an interesting book. I was a little confused in the beginning when the little magical fantastical element came into play, because I was just like, all right, I didn't really see how that was going to be related into the story overall. And then when the climax started happening, I was like, oh, so that's what's gonna happen. It's like, oh my god. And then when the ending, because I had a little epilogue at the end, and I was like, I don't know, I was super shocked, but she guessed it after 3/4 of the way in. So I was just like, all right, it's not fun anymore.
Well, it was kind of like a quasi bet you had with me, because she always she's noticed that somehow when I read books, if they're written not as original, I guess, or as uniquely as I expect, within the first few pages I start kind of being able to hash out a premise, and it ends up being more or less maybe if we're going to put it into percentiles, maybe 98% right, or along the lines of that. So for this book, I'd say that the author, the reason I'm mentioning that is that the author got me through about 2/3 of the book before I actually even kind of nailed down what exactly was going on. So props to the author for keeping me guessing for that long.
Right, she periodically oh, I think this is what's happening, and I'm like, no, that's not what's gonna happen. So I was like, all right, at least she didn't guess it correctly. And then when she guessed it, I was like, no.
But with the book itself, I would say in terms of character development, there wasn't much growth really among most of the characters. I felt that the doctor, David, he sort of remained the same role he always played among the adulterer for Adele, and the
loving boss /
the loving
lover.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Louise.
I guess lover would just be the most accurate word for it. And it was hard to like him, really, to be honest, because even though I understood that as the story went on, that Adele was very much the antagonist. The antagonist, yeah. I'm trying to not try to mice my words without hurting.
Mince your words.
Sorry, I can't talk. This cat's driving me crazy. In general, though, she was obviously very much off hinge, and you could tell why David no longer liked her. But at the same time, it was hard to come to an acceptance that Louise could be friends simultaneously with Adele and with David, and that to me very much felt like a plot device. I frankly would never be able to really understand a person who could really do that. But then again, like I feel like maybe the author didn't do too badly on that though. That's what I meant. Like she was the protagonist, and I didn't really hate her, but I also like.
You mean the antagonist?
Louise.
Oh,
Louise in the end. Yeah, like in the end, like I didn't really hate her, which was props to the author again, because that's a very tricky role to write as like a sympathetic, somewhat quasi-sympathetic character. But yeah, like I don't know. Really
so I actually want to just clarify one thing. So the perspectives is really between Adele and Louise. Mm-hmm. David wasn't really like, he was more of like a secondary character. Like it was never written in his point of view. Mm-hmm. But we also got like flashbacks. Mm-hmm. So like flashbacks between Adele and her childhood friend, and then like why she became the way she was. Adele when she was in like a mental institution, and like her learning this like fantastical ability, etc. So the flashbacks really helped in developing the book to kind of really understand why some things are going on now with the characters. And whereas for David, the reason why I don't think we ever really liked him was because we never really got his perspective. So he always seemed as like the typical guy, you know, who was just there. Like he was, you know, you see him as like the faithless lover, husband for Adele, and like the loving lover, I guess, for Louise, but you never really see or hear from his point of view. So you don't really know what he's thinking other than the fact that, you know, you kind of understand why he doesn't love Adele anymore, and you never really understand why they haven't gotten rid of their marriage, you know, like why they haven't divorced, etc. So you can, but like, it's a very interesting relationship between Adele and David that like you kind of realize as the book goes on. Just because in the beginning you're not sure if, you know, David is overbearing or if he's like, you know, an abusive husband, or if Adele's a manipulative bitch, etc. So it's a very interesting read, I think, and that kept me personally on my toes just because I wasn't sure what was going to happen at all, and I love these type of books. So anyways.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is into thrillers and relatively likes to keep things guessing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, she got me through like 2/3 of the book before I was kind of like, oh wait,
right,
maybe.
Right. And that for Emily is a good job already. So
yeah, I definitely would say that. And I think in general though, like the way, because it's a thriller, I think thrillers are generally pretty hard to write. Original content, like in that fashion. So I think she definitely took a risk. The author definitely took a risk, and I think, yeah, it paid off.
And then there's one thing that, talking about the ending, without going too much into details, but Emily, when I was asking about it, she kept saying that it was a cop-out. So want to explain why you thought the ending was a cop-out?
The reason why I thought it was a bit of a cop-out was that there is some, I guess, unwritten rule among like writers is that if you stick with like one genre, you don't try to like flip it to a different one so that you can like escape the restrictions and like, I guess, like the art of one genre and answer it with another. So right now, like in the beginning, it started off as like a realistic thriller. So a lot of what you're confined to is the rules of the real world. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as things started to like drift over.
But that wouldn't be a cop-out because throughout the book you start seeing this like mystical, magical element.
A little bit, but at the same time, like the way she wrote it, it didn't necessarily give enough of like a push where like when I reached the end, I was one, surprised about what happened, but I also was not as thrilled about the fact that like, oh, I went through this entire like momentous journey only to find out that, oh, there's like an extra rule in this world that I just did not know about. Because like there's ways to be like to add paranormal to a realistic thriller experience that also can make you feel, okay, well, clearly like there's no way for you to like interact in that fashion. But then like I guess the problem really was for me was that when it got down to the end, it was just hard to swallow the fact that there was a fantasy side to it. Like, I think that was it. It was like, it wasn't just the paranormal, it wasn't just like it wasn't just supernatural paranormal. It like, there was like certain things about the ending that was like fantasy. And then once it became like, once it involved fantasy rules, that's when I was like, oh. In the end, when suddenly there was that climax happening, it just came to me as not just a surprise, but also sort of I could no longer really suspend my belief. I was like, oh wow, like this is very, very like far-fetched in terms of like the sort of world building. Yeah, the world building that she had given me thus far. So like that's the reason why I was saying like it was a bit of a cop-out, because then I kind of lost interest as well as lost the focus of her book. Yeah, because I was like, oh, I understand now reading it that might have been her goal, but then at the same time, like I just felt like she didn't use the tools of her trade correctly. Like not well enough that like a reader like me would be like satisfied at the end. Like I definitely felt like, oh, she just decided to, you know, dump a whole bunch of salt, you know, on a very bad overcooked platter.
Personally, for me, it was more like I thought it was a good ending just because it kept me on my toes. Because like even though I kind of understand your whole like, you know, within the parameters of the genre that you had decided upon, but the thing is, for me, it was more like, okay, but now this happened, so you don't know what might happen in the future. You know, so there's kind of this open-ended like thing going on, which I was like, I personally really enjoyed. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, in general, I think the ending works. I felt like she should have taken more risk in the beginning and giving us more clues. Because I felt like with me, I was very much, like you said, confused. But maybe not necessarily in a way that I enjoyed either, because it wasn't the sort of confusion of being like, oh, I like being led on. Let me keep on figuring that out. It was more like she didn't give enough hints that there was like that sort of phenomenon happening. Like she could have been like something moved, or you know, like more, you know, in any sort of like storytelling, there's like ways for you to like give hints without actually telling them the actual thing. So I felt like at the very end she started becoming more and more obvious, and I kind of wish that kind of happened maybe like a fourth into the book, because I felt like she could have taken that risk and it would have been fine. I think most people would have been like, what? I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
So for our final conclusion, basically our last impression for this novel is I liked it. I still give it a thumb up here, just because I don't know if I loved it per se, but I think I definitely liked how they did the thriller. I thought the author did a good job with the characters.
Here's yours.
Not wow, I think, but like,
it was shock.
Yeah, I guess I was shocked at the end. Definitely shocked at the end, but I definitely liked it. So, thumbs up for me.
Yeah, and I'd say that I'd give it kind of like a confused one, because as I said, the author did a good job in keeping me guessing. maybe not necessarily on my toes, but guessing. And to her credit, this particular type of book is really hard to write. So, good for her.
Even though Emily didn't think the character development wasn't done super well, I personally thought Louise and Adele were done pretty well. You were always kept on your toes. I thought the flashbacks worked well in line with the story overall, and the ending definitely was a shocker for me. Not necessarily for her, but a shocker for me.
Like I said, I was definitely encouraged to find out if I was right. So I'd say that isn't always something that I find often with many books. Sometimes when I find out, like there are some books I open the first few pages, I'm like, I know this story already, and I just kind of throw it aside because I'm just like, I'm not interested anymore, because it's like, why would I bother to flip through all those pages and waste that many hours just to find out that I figured out the story already. So yeah, part of the discovery is in this book, and I definitely recommend it that way. So thank you for actually watching this video. If you liked our review, as well as want to continue to listen to more reviews, definitely subscribe to us. Do you have anything else?
And like the video?
Well, I like the video too.
Yeah. And then don't forget to also follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
And if you are interested in Book of the Month and finding more about it, we also will have the links down below, as well as this, and also this book as well.
So yeah, definitely check this all out, and that's it for today.
Thank you guys.
Bye.